When an 8-year-old boy looked the king of pop straight in the eyes and asked him the most innocent yet profound question imaginable, Michael Jackson's response shattered every wall he'd built around his superstar persona. In that stark backstage corridor, surrounded by hardened industry professionals, an extraordinary moment unfolded that grown men were moved to tears and the entire atmosphere changed forever. But what did Michael Jackson say about Jesus that was so powerful it transformed not just that moment, but everyone who witnessed it? The concrete walls of the backstage corridor seemed to pulse with the thunderous chanting of 50,000 voices beyond. Michael! 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 The sound reverberates through the sterile, bright hallways like a heartbeat, each chant growing more desperate, more demanding. Security guards pace nervously, their earpieces crackling with updates about crowd control and stage timings. The faded green paint on the walls has seen better days, chipped and scarred from years of equipment being wheeled through these narrow passages where dreams either soar or shatter. Michael Jackson moves through this utilitarian maze like a figure from another dimension. His black leather jacket catches the harsh overhead lights, each sequin and buckle gleaming against the drab backdrop. The iconic white fedora sits perfectly atop his head, casting shadows across features that the world knows by heart, yet understands so little. His footsteps echo in the hallway, a rhythmic counterpoint to the distant roar of anticipation. Crew members rush past him carrying cables, stage props, and last-minute adjustments, their movements choreographed by years of touring experience. They nod respectfully as he passes, maintaining the invisible barrier that fame creates around its prisoners. The air itself feels electric, charged with the kind of energy that only exists in those moments before a legend takes the stage. Makeup artists hurry by with their cases, dancers stretch against the cold walls, and sound technicians adjust their headsets one final time. The smell of industrial cleaner mingles with hairspray and the faint scent of popcorn drifting from the arena concourse. This is the belly of the beast, where the magic is manufactured and dreams are packaged for mass consumption. Michael pauses at a water fountain, the kind you'd find in any government building or hospital, its chrome surface reflecting the bright lighting. He removes his fedora momentarily, running his fingers through his hair, a gesture so human it seems almost out of place in this manufactured environment. The weight of expectation hangs heavy in the recycled air. Behind a nearby door marked "Authorized Personnel Only," roadies argue about guitar tunings and lighting cues. A janitor pushes a mop bucket down the hall, his presence barely acknowledged by the circus of celebrity that swirls around him daily. The chanting grows louder, more insistent. Somewhere in those underground depths, a phone rings unanswered. A clipboard falls to the floor with a sharp crack that echoes off the worn walls. The king of pop straightens his jacket, adjusts his fedora, and continues his solitary walk through this maze of mediocrity that somehow leads to transcendence. Each step carries the weight of 1,000 performances, 1,000,000 expectations, and the crushing responsibility of being someone else's salvation night after night. In the distance, a maintenance worker repairs a flickering light fixture, his ladder creaking against the wall as he works to restore illumination to this underground world. The mundane task feels symbolic somehow, as if the entire infrastructure of entertainment depends on such quiet, unnoticed labor. Security radios crackle with status updates about VIP arrivals and exit strategies, the language of protection spoken in codes that reduce human beings to potential threats or assets to be managed. But tonight, in these unlikely surroundings, an unplanned encounter is about to interrupt the well-oiled machine of stardom. An encounter that will strip away every layer of performance and reveal the man beneath the legend, transforming this stark corridor into hallowed ground where miracles still dare to unfold. Through the maze of equipment and crew members, Frank Dillio makes his way toward Michael with news that will change everything. Frank Dillio approaches with the measured steps of a man who has delivered both triumph and tragedy to the world's biggest star. His expression carries the weight of someone who knows how to navigate the delicate balance between Michael's public obligations and private fragility. The tour has been relentless, city after city, each performance demanding nothing less than perfection from a man who has already given everything he has to give. The exhaustion isn't just physical, it runs deeper, into places where no amount of rest can reach, into the very marrow of his soul where the child prodigy still weeps for a childhood that was sacrificed on the altar of entertainment. Michael's eyes, those windows that have captivated millions, reflect a weariness that makeup cannot conceal. The Jehovah's Witness teachings of his childhood echo in his mind like distant hymns, lessons about humility, service, and finding God in the smallest gestures. Yet here he stands, elevated to a status that feels increasingly disconnected from those simple truths. The applause that once felt like validation now sometimes sounds like the roar of lions in a coliseum, demanding entertainment from their gladiator. He remembers his mother Catherine's gentle hands as she read scripture to him and his siblings, her voice a refuge from the chaos of fame that was already beginning to consume their family. "There's a boy here," Frank begins, his voice careful and measured. "Make-A-Wish Foundation. 8 years old. Terminal." The words hang in the recycled air between them like a prayer seeking its destination. Michael's posture shifts almost imperceptibly, the superstar facade giving way to his deeper humanity. This is the part of fame he has never learned to armor himself against, the weight of being someone's last hope, their final wish granted by a universe that seems otherwise indifferent to their suffering. Each Make-A-Wish encounter feels like a sacred trust, a responsibility that transcends entertainment and enters the realm of the eternal. The backstage area suddenly feels smaller, more intimate. Michael thinks of his own childhood, stolen piece by piece and fed to the machine of entertainment. He remembers Sunday mornings at Kingdom Hall, his mother's gentle voice reading scripture, the simple faith that once made the world feel safe and comprehensible. Now, surrounded by the trappings of unimaginable success, he finds himself longing for that same simplicity, that same unquestioned connection to something greater than himself. The gold records and platinum plaques feel hollow compared to the memory of his mother's prayers whispered over his sleeping form. The overhead lights hum constantly, a constant reminder of the artificial nature of this environment. Everything about his life has become performance, calculated and choreographed for maximum impact. Even his genuine moments of compassion are scrutinized, analyzed, and often misconstrued by a media machine that feeds on controversy. The loneliness of being misunderstood cuts deeper than any criticism of his music or his appearance. He thinks of Jesus walking among the crowds, touching the untouchable, healing the broken, a template for love that Michael has tried to follow despite the impossible circumstances of his fame. "How long do we have?" Michael asks, though they both know time is always the enemy, whether measured in minutes before a show or months in a child's remaining life. Frank checks his watch, that universal gesture of a world obsessed with schedules and deadlines. But some moments transcend the tyranny of time. Some encounters demand that the clock stop ticking long enough for humanity to remember what truly matters. Michael straightens his shoulders, preparing to step into another role, not the king of pop, but something far more challenging and infinitely more important. Simply being present for another human being in their moment of need. The boy stands in the passageway like a small beacon of innocence against the utilitarian backdrop, his striped shirt and worn jeans a stark contrast to the manufactured glamour that usually fills these spaces. His mother hovers nearby, her eyes red-rimmed from months of hospital waiting rooms and sleepless nights, clutching a tissue that has been twisted into a small rope of anxiety. The child's face lights up with recognition, but there's something deeper there. A wisdom that illness sometimes grants too early, an understanding of mortality that should never live in such young eyes. Michael kneels slowly, his leather jacket creaking against the silence that has settled over the space like a heavy blanket. The movement is deliberate, almost ceremonial, bringing himself down to the boy's eye level in a gesture that transforms the narrow hallway into holy ground. His knees touch the cold linoleum floor, and for a moment, the king of pop becomes simply a man meeting a child on equal ground. "Hi there." Michael's voice carries that distinctive softness, the gentle tone that has whispered lullabies to millions through radio speakers. The child's eyes widen, not with the starstruck awe that Michael has grown accustomed to, but with genuine recognition, genuine human connection. They talk about simple things at first, favorite colors, dreams about flying, the magic of music that makes people dance. The conversation flows with the easy rhythm of old friends, untainted by the complexity of fame or the weight of mortality. Security guards lean against the walls, their usual vigilance softened by the tenderness of the moment. Crew members pause in their hurried preparations, unconsciously drawn into the orbit of this unexpected encounter. The bright overhead lights seem to dim, as if the building itself is holding its breath. Even Frank Dillio checks his watch less frequently, sensing that some moments exist outside the tyranny of schedules. Then it comes, the question that cuts through every pretense, every carefully constructed barrier. Michael, do you know Jesus? The boy's voice carries the unfiltered honesty that only children possess, free from the fear of offending or the burden of social propriety. The words echo in the space with surprising power, bouncing off the painted walls and settling into the hearts of everyone present. Michael's breath catches almost imperceptibly. His eyes, those windows that have revealed so much joy and pain to the world, suddenly shimmer with unshed tears. The question pierces through decades of public performance, through layers of celebrity armor, straight into the core of his being where the frightened child from Gary, Indiana, still sits in Sunday morning church services, listening to his mother read from Scripture. The hallway falls completely silent. Security guards stop their whispered communications. Crew members freeze mid-step. Even the distant roar of the waiting crowd seems to fade into background noise. Time stretches and contracts simultaneously, creating a pocket of eternity in the most unlikely of places. Michael's hands tremble slightly as childhood memories flood back. Kingdom Hall meetings, family prayers, the simple faith that once made everything make sense before fame complicated every truth he thought he knew. He takes a slow, steadying breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle around him like a mantle. Yes, Michael whispers, his voice barely audible, yet somehow filling the entire corridor with its quiet power. I do. He's been my friend since I was your age. The words emerge from somewhere deeper than his famous vocal cords, from a place that exists beyond performance and persona. Tears begin to trace paths down his cheeks, each drop carrying years of suppressed longing for authentic connection, for the simple faith that fame has made increasingly complex. The boy's face transforms with understanding, a smile spreading across his features that seems to illuminate the dimly lit hallway. I knew it, he says with the quiet confidence of a child who has never doubted that goodness recognizes goodness, that love calls to love across all boundaries. Michael's mother had taught him the same truth decades ago, in a cramped house in Gary where dreams seemed impossible and faith was the only currency they could afford. Without conscious thought, Michael begins to hum, not one of his chart-topping hits, but something older, something that predates his fame. The melody of Man in the Mirror emerges, but transformed, stripped of its production and polish until it becomes what it always was at its core, a prayer set to music. His voice echoes softly in the quiet corridor, turning the empty space into an impromptu cathedral where miracles feel not only possible but inevitable. The hardened professionals surrounding them, men and women who have seen every conceivable display of celebrity behavior, find themselves deeply moved. Frank Dillio wipes his eyes with his sleeve, a gesture he would normally consider unprofessional. A security guard, a former Marine who thought he had seen everything, turns away to compose himself. The boy's mother sobs quietly, not from grief but from recognition that her son is experiencing a transcendent moment in what might be his final weeks. Michael reaches out and gently takes the boy's hands, his sequin glove a strange juxtaposition against small fingers that have known too many foreign needles and medical procedures. Would you like to pray with me? He asks, and without waiting for an answer, he closes his eyes. The child follows suit, and suddenly the space becomes sacred ground, a place where the artificial boundaries between sacred and secular dissolve completely. They stand together in the brightly lit hallway, the superstar and the dying child, surrounded by witnesses to a moment that will reshape their understanding of what fame can mean when it serves something greater than itself. When Michael finally opens his eyes, something fundamental has shifted. The weight he has carried for so long feels different, not lighter, but somehow more purposeful. Later that night, when Michael takes the stage, his performance carries a different energy. The same songs, the same choreography, but infused with spiritual purpose, a connection to the divine that transforms entertainment into testimony. In the audience, 50,000 people sensed the change without understanding its source, feeling themselves lifted by music that has become prayer, by performance that has become worship. The boy watches from a special section, his face glowing with the knowledge that he has witnessed and participated in something eternal, something that will outlive both the cancer in his small body and the fame that surrounds the man who knelt to meet him at eye level in a backstage corridor where miracles still happen.